call this meeting to order at 5:04 p.m. First, let's please remove your hats and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, board members, do we have a motion to approve the agenda as drafted?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, a motion by Dan, second by David. All those in favor of adopting the agenda as drafted, signify by saying aye. Aye. Aye.
Not necessarily
Anybody opposed?
order. I think it's-
Correct. Correct. Moving to the consent agenda then, does anybody on the board have a request to pull anything off the agenda or the consent agenda for individual discussion? Hearing none, then we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as outlined in the packets and the agenda.
So moved.
Motion by blank, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dan Fosterling. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Committee reports. Dan, is there a committee report for you this month? All right, Mr. Barnesol? All right, then I'll move to my report. First, I want to start off with, I know that there's been a lot of comments, concerns, phone calls to the town about waste management. And so I wanted to report back to the body as a whole, the citizens here, that I did attend a meeting on January 12th, 26 with Susan Blank in attendance and our clerk, Nick Hanlos, with Waste Management's regional manager, Tim Miller. I said basically the biggest issue was that people need a better avenue for complaints and customer service. Sometimes people are being told contrary information by the call center that they call. So he did outline to us that Waste Management uses a call center for complaints and that there are 4 different locations across the United States. Every time you call Waste Management for a concern, it does generate a ticket. And that ticket number, if you call with Waste Management, you should save it and reference it because that will be your reference to make sure that that complaint or issue is tracked. So the drivers work off of a tablet, so they are up to speed on routes, pickups. I acknowledge there's some problems with that. There's some internal accountability that needs to happen. Well, Susan had relayed her personal experience with Waste Management. Overall, I would say the meeting was very productive. We, had given some suggestions. Basically, that I did mention that if you've got a ticket for one address on the street, the driver should be checking the whole street, so that just one can isn't picked up because there was a complaint. To pick up everybody's can that got missed, right? We also had a discussion about some roads that are difficult for the large trucks to get down. He did assure me that they have smaller trucks that are now available, and we'll be servicing some of those more difficult roads. I had indicated that I did not want to have our citizens have to bring their garbage down 2 to 3 houses to a more accessible location, especially with the ice and snow, and we just don't want to see anybody have to do that, and he understood. Most importantly, he gave the town a number for his direct contact. So if your ticket doesn't resolve the item through customer service, every citizen is welcome to call Town Hall, and we will contact them on your behalf as well. We have the manager's direct number. So overall, again, I think we took the emails and calls and our notes, we shared those concerns with Waste Management. It sounds like they have a good plan and we have good communication going forward. The main takeaway is if you do have a problem with Waste Management, please keep your ticket number so that you can reference it to us if it doesn't get resolved, and we can take that forward. So I just wanted to give everybody a quick summary of that meeting. Again, I felt it was a good first meeting. It was definitely felt that Mr. Miller was responsive to our questions. Susan, is there anything you want to add since you were there?
No, I think between all of us, we did a good job of communicating and referencing how our community feels. And we just want to make sure our community is heard, and we don't want anything to, well, the right hand missing the left hand. So with this ticket number, this is one of the questions that we asked, is there a ticket number? So please stay on the line, ask for that ticket number, because that is your reference. And if it has to go to a second, it doesn't get taken care of, it is a progressive pyramid that they will get quite aggressive. And they assured us they are going to definitely work with our community. And I felt very relieved that they heard us.
Thank you, Susan. The next part of my committee chairman's report is I had a number of people asking me, why so many public hearings lately? And I just wanted to, so there's certain ordinances that we have to call a public hearing for zoning, for example, one of the items here. The other is, and this is just a personal philosophy, but I feel like every citizen has the right to ask their government for redress or a proposal or for laws, changes, whatever. And so when we get a issue that we might need more information on, my personal philosophy is I would rather call a public hearing and give everybody's input so that we're not making decisions in a vacuum without the right input. And so we didn't need to call a public hearing on the issue of the ATVs, but we thought that it would be important. So we did mail out letters to all those along the route. We also had our clerk posted, I think, on the alert system of our website, which should give you email or text, whatever you want to sign up for. But by no means, because something's on the agenda, should you assume an endorsement of a particular position or against a particular position. It's just, my philosophy is I want to give everybody an opportunity to be fully heard and present their case. So hope that answers that question and background. Beyond that, we have 2 public hearings tonight. So what I would like to do, because as Mr. Fosterly mentioned, we can go out of order. We can take one, we don't have to go in that order. Who here is here tonight to speak to the public hearing as it relates to the youth-oriented recreational district? Raise your hand if that's your issue. Who's here for the ATV proposal? Raise your hand. All right. So, in light of that, we are going to move into the public hearing on the ATVs then, so the majority of people can have their input first. I'm going to move public comment till after the 2 public hearings, and we will start then with public hearing on item number 8 to address the proposed opening of part of the town for ATV use. Now here are the ground rules for tonight. It's going to be a little bit different. Everybody's going to get 2 minutes to speak and 2 minutes only. We're not going to do the rebuttal back and forth because we have a packed house tonight. So if you can't do your comments in 2 minutes, somebody else will probably pick up on your position. So we're not going to do the 1 minute kind of second speak on that tonight. I believe our treasurer has indicated he will informally keep time. If you go a little bit over, I don't think anybody really is going to have an issue with that, but try to keep your comments succinct. The other thing is, I know that people may feel strongly for or against this issue. Let's please keep the comments respectful. We're here for a good civil discourse and debate. We don't answer questions during this time, so if you're asking us a question, just please understand that's not part of the process. We will then talk about it in the discussion part for the board. But with that, and it doesn't matter if you're speaking for or against, if you can make one line, you'll have 2 minutes to speak, but please state your name for the record, because our clerk will take that down, and an address. And you can just indicate, I don't know every address if it's inside or outside the town, so please indicate if you're a town of Hudson resident.
Mr. Chairman, would we start with town residents first, please?
Yes, we can start with town residents first. That's fine. All right, but I think other than that, everybody understand the ground rules for tonight's hearing, and I really am truly anxious to listen to what you all have to say. So if whoever wants to be first, please state your name, where you're from.
Gerald Markel, 508 Country View Road, Hudson, Wisconsin. I've been a resident of Hudson Township for over 35 years, and I am one that kind of started the ball rolling on the ATV routes open in the county or in the township. This is there's only 2 townships in the county that are not open for ATV routes, and Hudson is one of them, and I'm just trying to get the ball rolling to see if we can do it wisely.
Could the volume of the mic be turned up to you?
Let me wait till the mic.
Thanks, Steve.
Hi, my name is Dan Ross, and I've been town on Crosby Drive, and that's one of the proposed routes for them to go through. And I've been there for 26 years. I would like to express a lot of concern about the ATV going on the roads through a neighborhood. There are plenty of places around that they could, and I also have a concern for 24 hours a day, having ATVs, UTVs, or whatever running through the streets. And from what I had looked, it looked like they were expecting people to go more on the ditch or on this side. Well, if you go down in our neighborhood, it's very, very steep coming around the area, and there's nowhere for them to go except be on the road. There's a lot of children in the area, and I think that it's very, very unsafe there. But I mean, we've got a huge town here. There's a lot of places where you do not have to go through a neighborhood. It doesn't even come by my house, but there's a lot of kids running around with bikes and et cetera, and I have a lot of concern to have that running 24 hours a day. So I would propose it to be, if it happens, I hope it does a lot less time.
Hello, I'm Jody Johnson Barsness. I live at 513 Pamela Lane. I'm on the corner of where the road is. So 2 angles of my home face basically the area where the ATVs could potentially go through. I am in great opposition of this for more than one reason. I'm in agreement with everything this lady has just said. On top of it, they put in utility-type poles in the reserve areas between the yard and the street, which could be easily missed and knocked over. In fact, one has already been damaged for no apparent reason. I have great concern that people are trying to dodge children, dogs, cars, whatever the case may be, will start hitting those poles as well. We have a soccer field up the road where there's a lot of children. People go back and forth from that soccer field regularly. And on top of that, I see where the road turns down and goes around the corner. And cars are constantly almost at risk there regularly on a normal day. So I can't imagine what's going to happen because you can't see beyond that hill going down. What would happen? Cars are even coming around at 20 miles an hour.
My name is Matt Miller. I live on Jacobs Lane, I'm Hudson. I'm going to echo what they say. I'm a father of 3 young kids. Jacobs Lane, familiar. People seem to think that that's a 50-mile-per-hour zone. As is, it's a 35. But we already live in a place or kind of in a state where we don't feel safe bringing our kids out into the road. We live at kind of the top of the hill, and people are constantly speeding through this, so we're always trying to keep our kids away from the road. Throwing ATVs in there 24 hours a day, we can anticipate that it's only become more dangerous for my kids and the other kids that live in our neighborhood where our roads are already not safe. I know there's a lot of other places they can go. I can't imagine that those aren't options for them, but ATVs, snowmobiles driving up and down the roads, just seems like it's a lot of hazardous conditions for young kids, and a father like me where I want to be able to bring my kids out into the road safely. I would hope that my community, my government would support me as a father, my wife, as a mother, and and being able to feel safe going out into a residential road. Thanks.
John Sitchie, live on Country View Road, Town of Hudson. Echo what these people have said. It's just a very hilly area, a lot of blind hills and sharp turns. We live right by the frontage road, have a newborn, and as they get older, you know, that road already, like people have said, blind hills, people go really fast, much more than the posted limit. A lot of dogs in the neighborhood that some on leash, some off leash, more and more kids. So just not total opposition if you want to do like 5 miles an hour. I don't know the proposed route. Obviously, you guys aren't necessarily settling on any of that, but I just would ask the necessity of it if it's really that necessary with a new wave of children coming in.
Good evening, my name is Mike Lewandowski. I live on Crosby Drive, and like my neighbor Jan, this proposed route goes right in front of my house. I've got a number of concerns. I'm not immediately opposed to this. I'd like to learn more, particularly why that this is being brought forward, because looking at the route, it seems like this is just a route where someone drives around, does a loop around Crosby and Country View, and goes back where they're going. So it seems like it's purely recreational. I'm not opposed to that, but I think there are some important considerations. As others have mentioned, 24 hours a day is sort of a non-starter. We need to limit the appropriate time for that. Speed is an issue. These roads don't have shoulders. So anytime, you know, ATV or UTV is on that road, it comes up with a car in the same lane, there's going to be an issue. So that's a thing that needs to be addressed going through the process. The time of day, but also the time of year. Ms. Blank pointed out in December that, you know, we get snow that further reduces the roads. That's an issue that comes in with the restrictions. And I think we need to have some careful consideration to, you know, what we want our residential neighborhoods to be and what situations we need to think about. There's a school bus stop right up in front of my house. So as I think about bus stopping, you know, and 2 or 3 times during the day, the bus stops, and small children getting off, crossing the road, it's hazardous enough with cars coming through. But now with a whole series of ATVs and UTVs, and I honestly have no idea how much traffic we would actually see. But thinking about that and thinking about what I've witnessed with the illegal use of ATVs and UTVs in the neighborhood, that folks are not paying attention to speeds or what's going on, and I don't imagine that the folks who are bringing this forward are considering inappropriate or ill-conceived use, but I think that's something that we need to keep in mind.
Good afternoon. My name is Corey Hines, and I live at Country View Road, so on the route. Echoing what these guys are doing. I'm on the road as well, and echo what everyone has said. The Country View Road area is one of the most turned over areas of the town of Hudson. I think since we moved in 3 years ago, we've had about 10 new families move in. And I really like the last question, which was mine, which is the why, right? Because we moved to the town of Hudson because we wanted a little bit of land, right? And with the current economy, it's about as good as you're going to get. And it's also a great place to live. And I don't have toys yet, but a lot of our neighbors do. And they know how to use them, and respectfully so. They use them for fun, but they use them for also good, not goods and services, but they repair their own, right? So my question is, why does a windy, hilly community and a straightaway where someone could easily get up to 70, 80, 90 miles an hour on these new ATVs require a designated ATV route? I mean, why isn't the whole town open to it then if these communities are going to be sanctioned to issues that the rest of the town is? And let alone the safety, but what's the why? Because right now, we have space to have fun. And if kids need to go and run around on their ATV in the street, they can't get downtown. So they're just going to be running past kids and families that don't want us to do it. So again, safety concerns, logistic concerns, but also just the why. Because I don't understand the need to zip around on the roads and have a vehicle that's meant for all things. So that's it.
Hi, I'm Chris Coyer, and I live on the corner of Country View and Frontage Road. And like everyone else has said, the main concern is safety. When that frontage road was built in front of our house 20 years ago, that was the last time I spoke in front of this town, the road was meant to have a 30-mile-an-hour limit, which the sign says people do not go 30 miles an hour. Sometimes I can barely get out of my driveway because of the speed that they go down that hill. I can't imagine having cars and ATVs on that straightaway down that frontage road and having it safe. Like everyone else has said too, just the layout of this perfect circle and then a straightaway doesn't make sense. It seems like it's just like a drag race around. I don't understand why it's in our neighborhood. And then the other thing is, I'm really concerned about private property aspect, like others mentioned as well. I know it's meant, I believe that the ATVs would just be on the road, but if they are in the ditches, and frankly, our property, we have a beautiful field at the end of Country View that we already have snowmobiles and random cars sometimes driving through our field. It would be a perfect setup for an ATV to come and go four-wheeling through our field. So I want to know if this does happen, how are you going to protect our private properties from that as well?
Good evening.
Kelly.
Hi, my name is Mark Gilbert. I live on Crosby with my wife, and we've lived there for 20 years now. And echoing a fellow before me, the first question I had when I saw the letter was why? Why? You're asking for trouble. There's so many stress points along the route when whether it's crossing you, or that long straightaway, or the soccer fields, all the children. There's very steep hill coming down Crosby. Cars have landed in people's front yards down there. If you go past the church, they have a school there. There's lots of traffic. There's a huge hill there as well. So, and the woman before me had a very good point. Again, putting on my adolescent hat from years gone by, it would be a very natural racetrack to make that oval. And it wouldn't surprise me if it kind of turned into that. So, again, to close out, it's why, and it's asking for trouble on a number of fronts on that route. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Molly Trumbull, 30-year resident of town. We have neighbors that have ATVs, UTVs. I own one myself. We do not drive them on the neighborhood road because it's not polite to the neighbors. At the north end of this area, when you come off of McCutcheon, you're driving through 3 neighborhoods, narrow roads. We don't have the extra little sides on the road like Daly does. And Daly isn't even thought of in this. You have an extra 8 feet of pavement on Daly. Why would you bring it through next to 33 households, next to a park that we do not allow ATVs and UTVs in our park, when there's 14 houses that might be affected down Daly Road, and it's a wider road? There's room for it. I'm not totally opposed. My issue is, why would you run this 24 hours a day? It shouldn't be allowed. You should be really doing this during daylight hours, especially if you're having families with young children. and you're driving in a single lane, those kids aren't gonna be using hand signals to slow down, make left turns, make right turns. Give them a chance to learn, but if this is gonna pass, you need to restrict the hours. 24 hours a day is ridiculous. Thanks.
Michael Lisnut?
Yes.
All right. My name is
Pick it
David.
up too if you want. Just hold the thing up in your hand.
My name is David Heller. I'm a resident on Country View Road. I'm pretty much the first house coming from the south when it banks to the left. I've lived in that house on and off for 20 years. And in that time, there's been about 10 people that have driven off the road and sent themselves over my driveway in passenger vehicles. Daytime, middle of the night, myself included. I'm part of that. It's slippery, it's dangerous, and it's poorly marked. But again, to keep it short, I echo a lot of the sentiment of the people on Country View Road. It's a dangerous, windy road. I have a 12-year-old son. This is the first year I've let him bike alone on our road just because there's so many blind turns. And then ultimately, when I got the information, I was a little disappointed because we didn't really get that why. Looking into it, I realized that ATV trails offer really awesome, what's the word I'm looking for here? Opportunities for communities to bring people to local businesses or to connect residents to local trail systems. I don't really see this trail doing either of those things. So again, I kind of realized that it might just be a way for people to drive around our roads, which I don't necessarily support. But yeah, if that information can be shared as to why, that would be fantastic. And again, I just appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I'm Ken Krautbauer, and my wife and I have lived at 518 Jacobs Lane for 40-plus years. And during that time, we have seen the traffic on Jacobs Lane and you get increasingly heavier and heavier every year. The last few years, we see the buses on Jacobs Lane every day, 10, 12 buses in a row. We see cars coming off of U on Jacobs Lane, not slowing down for the corner, but accelerating. Our driveway is practically blind from U. We think, because of that, the soccer fields, a number of things, this is a plan that was not well thought out, without consideration for traffic flow and noise abatement. We both are against this route, and I hope that the board follows those recommendations. Thank you.
I'm Sarah Gunderson. I'm at 457 County Road A. I live on a small section of property that has a walking path in front of it. And I just wanted to ask if there's any special considerations or thoughts made to ensure that UTVs and ATVs do not go on to the walking path to cut to Dorwin from County Road A. That's all.
Hi, I'm Kathy Huckford. I live at 716 Country View Circle. It's about 0.2 miles from the proposed route for the ATVs. I've lived there for 41 years. Picked that spot because it was a residential neighborhood. It is not designed to be a recreational area, and I think that's where the ATVs belong. I want to go on record and say I'm in opposition against this. I don't like the 24 hours, I don't like the noise, I don't like the speed. This is a family, should be a family-friendly neighborhood without motorized vehicles speeding past and making noise for the property owners.
Hi, my name is Bill Tarshurst. I live at 976 Parkview Lane in Hudson. I'm opposed to this as it is currently presented, and that is because McCutcheon Road is already a racetrack. And it has been since we moved there in 2012. Every day of the summer, there's motorcycles and cars that race down McCutcheon. They'll many times make the curve daily, and then they race down daily. That is every single day. Adding UTVs to this is crazy. You're asking for some deaths. This is a bad idea. That's number one. Excuse me. And number two, we've already had some neighbors that have tried to use this route. They've used UTVs and ATVs. They have been extremely loud. Whether they've had modified exhaust or not, they're loud. Acceleration or deceleration, they are loud. Then you put the nubby tires on the road, they are also loud. These have been loud enough that when we've had guests over at our house, we cannot continue our conversations because they are so loud, we have to stop. And that's the same when we've had a couple of neighbors that have had some ridiculously loud motorcycles and cars. We're just adding to an existing problem. And from what I've heard from many other people, it seems like we have an issue with people driving too fast and not following speed limits. We have called from our home to ask the county to come out and try to watch the road because of this motorcycle and several of them that were racing up and down the roads for the entire day. But we get a short-term treatment of that. But this is like everybody wants to come out into the country and they want to use this road to test their vehicles. And it's still out of control. The UTVs, I've been up north where they have UTV trails. If you're looking in the rural part of the county and the state, it's more acceptable because people live deeper in the woods off the roads, and these UTV trails are many times along the roads. Thanks.
Hello, I'm Joey Philippiak. I actually live on Brookwood Drive, east. Couple questions or a couple concerns. One is I'm trying to understand the route for all these various reasons. I'm looking at it from my perspective, it looks like it stops right where Brookwood East and Brookwood West have a gap. There's a ditch we walk through currently. We currently have safety issues with ATVs going through there now. And I'm not sure why that leg is there. So it's the Y on the actual route. It's the hours of operation. I think dawn to dusk would be great. It's also, I'm also asking that maybe the planning commission get involved and have a recommendation as well. Thanks.
My name is Dennis Lucas. I live at 597 Gilbert Road. I'm probably the oldest ATV, four-wheeler, snowmobiler, bicycle rider here. Anyway, I'm for the ATVs, UTVs for one reason. Wouldn't it be something to see us going down the road at 35 miles an hour and you got a line of cars that want to go 60 behind you, slowing them down? There were dirt roads, and here we are screaming by with these cars that with the turbos that'll do 160 miles an hour. And I got to straighten my road there that I know they're doing at least 70. So I just think that if we had the ATVs out there, and we don't want to cruise around the country right close to home. We want to be able to get out of Hudson Township and go for a ride into different counties. We don't want to stay here and spin our tires around. And we got enough motorcycles. We got e-bikes that do 50 miles an hour, and I ride bikes and I rode motorcycles and I jogged all my life, and I think it's a good way instead of having to go up north. My brother lives in Shell Lake. He says on a Friday night, all you people are going up north to get away from it all, and here we got the beautiful Hudson Township that we could have fun right at home doing our thing, and my machine will only do 35, 40 going downhill. So I think we have an opportunity here to have fun right in our own Hudson Township. Thank you.
My name is Jean Mann, and I really agree with things that have been said about the
I live on Crosby Drive, about the roads and the safety on the roads. But what I haven't heard anybody bring up is about the soccer fields. And I live quite close to the soccer fields, and I see ATVs coming and going from them now. I don't necessarily see people that age on those ATVs. So I don't know why I didn't know coming here what the why is for having this ATV trail. But what I do wonder is how safe will the kids be in that soccer field? How safe will they be when the ATV riders discover that they can go up and down that parking lot hill? And, just wouldn't that be fun? How safe will my road be as they're running up if they discover Peter Lane? At the end of Peter Lane, there's not a road, it looks like a path to the left. I think you could fit an ATV on that path, and then there's a hill, and then, I only know my little area. I don't know Hudson super well, but it frightens me for the children. It frightens me for the safety in our neighborhood. And if everybody were going 30 miles an hour older, I feel safer. But it also concerns me that if kids start driving their ATVs to that soccer field for practice, then what's the next thing? Can I ride it? And suddenly we have inexperienced people doing just a few minutes on an ATV. So, thank you.
Dan Howell, I live off of Spurline Circle, right off McCutcheon here. And I just want to say, part of the why that everybody is asking is, as an ATVer, a snowmobiler, we're looking for a way to get from here to other places. I don't think everybody's just going to go and ride in this big circle. What we are looking for is just a way to get from here to other places, to the better trails. But we just want access from here where you don't have to go and trailer out to Amory or somewhere else to get to the trail system. And the usage, I don't think you're going to see hundreds of ATVs on this path. It's going to be people that just want to go from here to get onto the trail system that's everywhere else. The route may not be ideal. We may have to look at some of that, but I think we do need to have access from our township to get into the trail system. You have it in most of the other townships surrounding us. I just want to say that I think we do need this. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Dan Schultz, 469 Country View Road. Like the Choirs, I'm right on the corner of Frontage and Country. Like Kathy, I've been in my location for 41 years. And I'm a former law enforcement officer in both Hudson and Hammond. I feel for those that are requesting this, because I understand the reason. But it just doesn't make sense from a community standpoint. They're good neighbors, and what they want is a good thing for them. But for the vast majority, I'm sorry, it's just not. The speed you've heard about, I can tell you, I'm trained to measure speed. And the speed on frontage road is often between 55 and 60 miles an hour, sometimes more. The hidden corners and hills are a serious problem. We have cars, as you've heard, going in the ditch continually. In my yard, in my neighbor's yard, and other places. Country View is a very nice, quiet neighborhood. Frontage is not. It's just a reality of the two. So most people try to walk on Country View. So certainly that route doesn't make sense at all. I prefer none of it does. Secondly, besides living in the town of Hudson, I also own a business up in northern Minnesota, a small resort, where ATVs and UTVs are part of the route right by my business. I can tell you that the vast majority of the people on ATVs are either young people driving not so safely, or, again, with many exceptions, or primarily going to the bars and then coming back from the bars, which, again, as a former law enforcement officer, creates great concern for me, for their safety. as well as the safety of the people around. So those are my comments. Again, thank you for opening this up for discussion. I think all sides should be heard, and I appreciate you.
My name is Robert Daniels. I live at 507 Country View Road, and I'm an owner of a utility vehicle. And I appreciate the neighbors and some of the people who want this. But Country View Road is not a road to make a right of way for ATVs and utility vehicles. It's curvy, and there's ups and downs. In fact, if you go over 20 miles an hour, you see there's hidden driveways. And we had a car, a young man went off the road 2 years ago right off into our front yard. So it just doesn't work. We've got kids and walkers and pets and deer. You know, twice a week I gotta go with deer. I just don't see it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lonnie Jacobs, and I live on Spurline Circle also. But I'm really here representing the farm. So the farm's at 526 County Road A. It goes all the way from County Road A to McCutcheon Road. And I guess my concern is, I'm really not for or against it. I understand that UTV and ATV riders want to get out to the rest of the county, but I guess one of my concerns is we have a lot of farm fields on McCutcheon, and I want to make sure that these vehicles stay on the road, don't oh, there looks like a fun hill, and we're going to go start, zooming around that. That's one concern. The other concern is just the hours also. Whether it's going 24 hours seems a bit excessive, and just keeping some more, I guess maybe more parameters around it, kind of like what I saw with the baseball or the softball fields. Let's just get a little bit tighter rules on this, and maybe some of the neighborhoods were not a good choice. That's it. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Mervyn Spraxek. I'm sorry I haven't been here for the last 2 months. I've been sick and also had trouble with my 2 artificial knees. I am 100% disabled with that. I'm bringing up the dog issue that I had. I received another visit from the control. I haven't gotten a bill yet for it. But I guess since I was in the VA at the time that it was brought up, I was in the hospital. So I'm sorry I'm here now. I still have the issue with getting the bill.
Yeah, why don't we do this, sir? If you have the time to hang out, there is going to be a public comment section, or we can just take it now, I guess, since he's here. But if I'm so we're breaking from the public hearing a little bit because this is not germane to that, but I would be happy to hear what you're saying. If you were in the hospital, contact our clerk or our town hall, and we'll see if we can get you back on the agenda, okay? Because I know you're not talking about ATVs, so I'm just, rather than come back for public comment, take your words here, we all heard them, and if you just make a formal request to reconsider, we'll address it, okay?
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Hi.
Hi, I'm Shirley Brander. I live at 489 Country View Road. I'm not opposed to ATVs or ATV riders. I just think there are better places to make that trail than through our quiet residential neighborhood with houses fairly close to the street. And 24 hours a day, I open my window at night, in the middle of the night, and I have ATVs driving very close to the road, not way back in the woods. And I think there are just better places to put that trail than right in front of all these residences on these nice quiet trail. We moved there because it's not a through street. So the traffic that goes through there is basically traffic that belongs on that street. But now if you open it up for whoever wants to ride anywhere, it's a totally different circumstance. And I think that needs to be reconsidered.
I'm Dawn Lewandowski, and I live on Crosby Drive. I've lived there for over like 24 years, and it's a very quiet neighborhood. It's right near the soccer fields. So my main concern is safety, because we have a lot of children in the neighborhood, and a lot of people that walk in that area. And then during the summer, with all the soccer fields and all the kids there, there's a lot of traffic there. I'm concerned about property values. I'm concerned about the noise that these vehicles would make. I'm concerned about the hours that they would be allowed to operate and the speed at which they would operate. I just think that the proposed route on a very residential area is not an ideal place for this because of all the houses. I'm sure that there are more rural areas in the town that would be better suited for this area so that it doesn't have to go past so many houses.
Hi, my name is Mark Duval. I'm at 3775 Pioneer Drive, Woodbury, Minnesota. And you might ask, I feel like a bit of an interloper here, but the connection is Matt Miller is my son-in-law and my daughter, and they both asked me if I would come. I'm a lawyer, don't let that scare you. I'm not here for anything like that. I want to first of all applaud you for having this. And this is a very open meeting, and I love your attitude about giving us an opportunity to redress. But the concern I have as a grandfather of 14 kids, with 3 of them living on Jacobs Lane, is I've been there. I spend a lot of time there, and I watch cars always move by, and we'd be very concerned about seeing the ATVs. We have about 3 foot of gravel on either side of Jacobs Lane. It's not really enough to do much. And you have 2 churches right there, one a Jehovah's Witness as well as a Christian church. And those are 2 things I think that Matt failed to add when he was up here. And I just want to say, please keep it safe. The first thing I said when I looked at this, because Matt asked me to attend with him, I said, why are they twins through this neighborhood? I mean, I've done a lot of work with the city council at Woodbury, and I can't imagine we would ever do anything like this, but you guys actually run yourselves better than the Woodbury City Council, so I love that. By the way, I was hit by an ATV. No, I'm just
Hi, I'm Cheryl Scarborough. I live on 521 Hudson Road, a mile down, so we're on the left-hand side right after the cornfield. I'm not opposed to ATV trails. We have a UTV. We would love to leave from our house and go to the trails. We would never duel around Hudson Township. And I can tell you already that we moved out here 25 years ago for a quiet, peaceful place. And the traffic on McCutcheon is so bad that it's 45 miles an hour, but I don't think one car goes 45 miles an hour. It's more like 55, 60. And that's frustrating. We have small dogs. Probably when my wing dog has probably ran out on the road and bit someone. I don't know, she's about 5 pounds. And it's dangerous. We can't get our mail. We can go get our mail. I mean, cars are so close to us, it's scary. So if you can reduce the speed limit on McCutcheon, I'm not opposed to anything going past my house, because we're just going to go to get on the trails. We don't want to duel around Hudson Township. So I think take away the time limit, 24 hours, maybe keep that down, and set some guidelines. I think it should be good.
My name is Jim Rubler. I live on Young Road, and it seems like a lot of doom and gloom. I feel like I'm a bad apple for having a UTV right now. But, obviously there's going to be bad apples out there, but there's also a lot of people. It's not a lawless recreational sport. You have to have a license. You have to have training if you're a child. I would like to see the trails actually be expanded. If you get on Badland and Kinney, you can go all the way wherever you want in Wisconsin. Once you hit Warren Township, there's open trails everywhere. I live literally a quarter mile from where Warren Township starts. I can't get there legally. And also to help neighbors when I plow and things like that, legally not able to take my side-by-side of the road and go help them. And if they did open the trails and expand it to that type of situation, would you be able to go through the neighborhoods to get to the trails? There's just a lot of things. I understand the concerns, but noise, I can understand if it's going by your house directly on a loop, but is it louder than most motorcycles, your lawnmowers that are running during the day? I don't think they really are if they abide by the law. But anyhow, that's my opinion. I think we should open it up.
Cindy Gorkisner, 334 Edgewood Drive. I live north. I do not live in your neighborhood, but I hear a lot of people asking why. I also didn't see the letter that you received. And I have to tell you, I can imagine you sitting in your place. Why our neighborhood? So I don't know what was in the letter. I look at the scribble, if those were the maps that you were sent. The attempt was just a pathway out to get up to the other legal trails and the other surrounding townships. How often they would be used, I don't know. It sounds like in your current neighborhoods, I mean, I have to tell you, there's a circle, and I don't recall the circle being on there and some of the other stuff. There was just 2 areas that we needed to cross that were questionable because of traffic. But the intent of the ATV club was not to use your neighborhood. I want to make this perfectly clear because I do not want the ATV club to tell you we think joyriding in your neighborhood would be fun and nor would we want to promote it. That was never the intent. It is just to try and find a least busy route to connect up to the other legal routes. There are state laws that talk about speed limit and hours, and I'm actually not qualified to speak on that because when you say 24 hours, some of that is state law, and this group doesn't have the ability to change certain state laws and speed limits. But I just want to assure you that, speaking for myself and trying to find just a path out, it is not to joyride in your neighborhood. Please do not think that. And if there are ATVs or other people that are driving where they shouldn't be or how they shouldn't be, please report that. As a citizen, part of your job is to protect your neighbors. So if you've got trouble going on in your neighborhood, please, if those people are trouble in your neighborhood, they're trouble on our trails too, okay? We don't want that. They cause a lot of damage. So I hope I answered a little bit of the why. Thank you for your time.
I'm Dan Clausen, I live right down here in McCutcheon. And my only concern is the safety, and McCutcheon is a speedway. I mean, it's already a dangerous road, and having UTVs on it is not going to be in their best interest. Now, the other thing I don't understand is what's the need for these trails. We are not rural anymore. We are really a community, a city.
Hi, my name is Richard Nelson, live on Sherman Road. I mean, currently, this would just legalize things on Sherman Road. There's hardly a day that goes by that we don't have ATVs or UTVs going by. Summertime, spring to fall, we have golf carts, we got go-karts, we got mini bikes every single day. I'm not kidding. Neighbors here could testify to that. But I'm not opposed to the UTV trail. I'm a owner myself. I don't hit the neighborhood roads at all, but I would probably utilize them if it was to get me out of the township to go to other townships or other counties. There are county laws, that specify speed limits as low as 10 miles an hour in a residential area or 35 miles an hour on some more roads that have a higher speed limit. So I'm not opposed and I'm not against it. Do I want to go by my house 24/7? No. Tripple County has some great rules set up basically riding from half hour before dawn and a half hour after dusk, not 24/7. So, just my opinion. Like I said, I am a user, but I don't use them in the township at all. I use mine on state and county trails. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Brian Farley. I live on 704 McCutcheon Road. First of all, I'd like to thank you for having this public forum and having the ability to speak here this evening. I've lived here for 32 years now. I moved out here before the subdevelopments even arrived on Florence and Fraser. Traffic was okay then, but now it's gotten more severe. Even with the widening of the road, it made it even more dangerous. You widen the road and you flatten out the hill, now it's become a drag strip. I'm concerned that who's going to police this with the ATVs? We're not even policing the speed limit with vehicles. I can't even go across my driveway to get my mail without having to worry about getting run over. That's my biggest concern. I don't know whether the ATVs go through or not. My concern is, why are we not policing McCutcheon Road? Somebody's going to get killed, whether it's in a car accident or an ATV person's going to get killed. That's my concern. Thank you.
Don't be shy.
Good evening, Greg White, 831 Kelly Road. I'm actually in the market for a UTV. I don't have one yet. I've had the pleasure to serve on the Town Planning Commission for over 16 years, a couple different times. And I think it's been about 5 years ago, we updated our town comprehensive plan, and we surveyed all the town residents. A UTV, ATV route did not come back as a need from the town residents at that time. Walking paths and bike paths or trails did. So today, we've had this is coming up as a possible need in the town. And I'm pleased we're looking at it in this way. But I must say I'm disappointed the way it's been presented. I want to thank the woman that spoke just recently and kind of updated the group on that this route, the proposed route, was never meant to be a route to ride through the neighborhoods. And I'm neither for or against ATVs in the town, or UTVs, ATVs, but I am against the route. It appears it's this handful of club members, it's to give them access to get to other trails or access to the other trails in the county. And I guess I would have liked to have seen something more up front and stated that before the letters went out and gave the impression that this was going to be the route. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Hema Arlich, and I live at 730 Crosby Drive. And I represent some other families that have young kids that weren't able to be here tonight that live on Crosby Drive. And I hear what people are saying, that we want to expand what we do outdoors. I think we all live in this area because we like to be outdoors and we don't like to be cramped. And it would be wonderful to have trails that were safe enough to connect us to other trails. I own it in TV, but we do it up north. But I have 3 young kids who get on and off that bus on Crosby Drive, and it's unsafe as it is. And that's actually what I've heard a lot of people say, is that we are already observing unsafe like behaviors and driving on the roads we live on. And so I echo that I would like to see more enforcement of safer driving on our roads. But we have the soccer fields at one end and then Bethel Highlands, which holds a preschool at the other end. And Crosby Drive already has a lot of traffic. I also don't let my kids ride their bikes on Crosby Drive because it's unsafe with the drivers that are on it right now. And so while I would love to say that I think this is a great option to increase our outdoor recreation, I'm not willing to do that at the expense of my own kids' safety outside their front door.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excuse me, my name is Don Jordan. Had a head cold tonight, but I'll get through it. I'll be very brief on my comments. If I run over, I'm going to take my neighbor's time because I think it's important to get this from a broader perspective. I have 5 points tonight, and I'm going to start with my closing statement. I think this is great. I do believe that we have the right to petition our government. This is grassroots democracy. The answer to that is the government has the right to say no. And I believe that this is not only a bad plan, I think this is a very bad plan. Let me tell you why. I'm going to start with 5 points. The first one is personal. My family members and I still are fortunate to own a family farm between Barron and Menominee, Wisconsin. Sounds like we're huge land barons. It is in 2 counties and 4 townships. And because of that, we have snowmobile trails and ATV trails that go across our farm. We also, it's a working farm. So with our ATVs, we know that we have to have on-road and off-road stickers on our ATVs. We've worked with both the DNR and law enforcement. And we've been told repeatedly, you cannot drive an ATV in the ditch, you cannot drive an ATV on the shoulder, and we will either get ticketed by the DNR or by the county if you're using roads that are not designated as ATV routes. That had an impression on us. Secondly, public. It takes a lot to get me out of the house. I'm glad to see all of my neighbors. I've never seen so many neighbors as here tonight. I live at 546 County Road UU, if I didn't say that. If I wanted to use the trail, I'd have to put my ATV on a trailer and haul it 300 yards to get to Crosby Road to use the trail to get to McCutcheon to come home. This is not a public trail system. This is a route to go nowhere. It goes from McCutcheon, and it's a closed loop, and it goes back. The reason I'm saying that is
We're going to let Mr. Jordan have some extra time. What? We're going to let Mr. Jordan have some extra time.
My time.
Yeah, I'm taking this time real quick. I spent 6 years on the county board, 6 years on the town board, and 2 different times, over a 12-year period, we've talked about ABT trails. I've gone to the Towns Association, and basically every town in the county, we're well aware of what these ATV trails are. But we've said no through all administrations as to why we're not doing ATV trails in the town of Hudson. And here's why. If we step back and look at what a town is, it's 6 miles by 6 miles. That's pretty standard across the area. Our family farm, over 4 townships, there's 500 people per town, if you average it out. You have the O'Galley ordinance in there. I looked up the O'Galley ordinance. If you go over 6 townships, which is between Pierce and St. Croix, that averages 900 people per town. And that's in St. Croix County. We have 9,000 people in this town. That's a ratio of 10 to 1 for O'Galley and St. Croix County, and a ratio of 20 to 1 for our family farm. This is not a place to be introducing ATV trails because it doesn't go to a recreational area. I can't get to it. No one else can. If you don't live on this trail, you have to trail your unit to get there. The town has major arterial feeders. I-94, Highway 12, County Road N, County Road UU, and if you came tonight, just imagine sending 4-wheelers, 8 or 10 in a group, through that roundabout that we petitioned for years to get the traffic warrant so that we could build that so someone didn't get killed out here. And now we're going to introduce ATV to it. And now you're going to cross County Road UU twice, and the county doesn't allow that. The county doesn't want that. So what are we doing here tonight, folks? This is my closing statement. There has been consensus on this issue that the town of Hudson is not comparable to other towns with public-private trails. Health, safety, and protection is the responsibility of elected officials. A closed-loop route that crosses two county roads with no recreational use is unfair and unsafe to all residents. And I ask that you not do this. Thank you.
My name is John Briegel. I live on Sherman Road. What has been mentioned tonight, that should be mentioned, is that just to the east of me, they're going to be putting in 29 new homes in that area. So that's going to bring in a lot more traffic, a lot more people, a lot more children, a lot more bikes, a lot more dogs, a lot more of everything. So I think you're introducing something here that you really need to consider, and I just wanted to make that note. Thank you.
Last chance. Going once. Any other public comment on this issue? Here we go.
John Sishi, just wanted to say something to finish it off. Is I don't know where the ATV trail's starting in. I'm not an ATVer. Eventually love to be one, but the route is just doesn't make sense with Crosby and Country View, and it's not like there's a bar on front of the road or any restaurants or anything. It's just going through the neighborhood. So I'm not opposed to you guys having easier access to get on your trails. Hell, throw it on UU for all I care, but it's just the neighborhood aspect. I don't see the benefit because it really does lead nowhere, and it is a circle. And coming down that hill at Bethel, I mean, that you pick up speed. It's just not the safety doesn't equal the reward. That's it.
Anybody else want to speak for the first time tonight? Going once. Twice. 3 times. Okay. I'm going to declare that the public hearing is closed. Because I didn't see a whole lot of hands go up for the proposed youth-oriented district, I would like to move right into that. I would encourage everybody to stick around because we will take up both of these right away, okay, in terms of the discussion by the board. So I'd like to open the public hearing to address the proposed changes to ordinance 105-14.2F for prohibited uses in the youth-oriented recreational district. Is there anybody who wishes to speak on this issue at a public hearing? We'll have 2 minutes. Just again, state your name. If anybody wants to comment on youth-oriented recreational district changes. Public hearing for the prohibited uses in the youth-oriented recreational district. Here's a speaker.
Travis Wellschmidt, 534 McCutcheon Road. I would like some clarification on point number 8 with the off-sale liquor stores or liquor warehouses. Is that any liquor use? And here's why I ask. Because if we put up, I'm developing that property and put up, let's say, a golf simulator, and then there is alcohol served at a facility like that, is that going to be allowed under this? Or is that saying no? Not a bar where there's hard liquor, but is there a beer and wine license? Or
Thank you for your comment and question. We'll address that when we talk all about it, because we can't answer questions at the public hearing portion.
Okay.
So hang around, we'll talk about it.
Okay.
But if there's anything else you wanted to bring up, just
Everything else looks great.
Okay.
I'm Donna Brennan. I live in Richmond, but I own land that's highlighted on here. I think I want to know, is there a 50-yard setback? Has anyone measured where this ball field's going to go to where the land around it's going to go? And I think it's terribly unfair that you're restricting that I can't sell my land to whatever's on this paper. I just don't think that's right.
Ma'am, can I get your name again?
Donna Brennan.
Thank you.
I own land on US Highway 12 that's right north of where the ball field will go. My last name is Roll, so that's where
Thank you.
But no, I am against the ball field if you're going to put these restrictions. And I understand, I have grandchildren, I have children that all love to play ball, and I think this is a wonderful thing, but not if you impose this on me. I don't like it. Okay?
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak regarding the proposed changes to the youth ordinance? Yes, sir.
Steve Herson, 813 Harbor View Road. I'm against this ordinance change. And the reason being, I don't feel like we should restrict that land. I feel like we're trying to give the boosters a benefit that really I don't see where they would be entitled to. In that we need to develop it. We need people that are going to go in there with that are increase our tax base. And I think Mr. Walshman brought up a great question there as far as that would be a youth-oriented activity. And it does sound like it's restricted. But to the other lady that was mentioned, the landowner there as well, I just don't see where this benefits the town. So my opinion is that this ordinance should not even go into play. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak on the youth-oriented recreation district? Going once. Going twice. Hearing none, we will close the public hearing on the youth-oriented sports district. So give me a moment to catch up here.
Time for the Jeopardy game?
All right. Let's move to item 9, discussion action on the proposed opening of part of the town for UTV, ATV use. So, let me make sure I got my mic on. There we go. All right, so I want to give everybody a little bit of background. So what happened was the ATV club with many town residents came to the town and said we'd like to be considered for a connector route to use the rest of the trails. And so that was the impetus. Historically, that has been met with an automatic no. And I didn't want to automatically say no to a group of citizens without giving them the opportunity to be heard. And so that's why we set this whole process in motion. I will tell you what I told them was, it's incumbent upon you to come up with a route. We did not propose, any of us at the town board, this route. So I'm sure many of you, when getting this letter, I can only sort of guess, was why would you pick me? And we did not. So what I told the club was, come up with an idea of a proposed route, and maybe if it's successful, we'll see how that pilot program works. Again, that's not a vote or an endorsement, but it's basically saying, you have to come up with the idea and the route and a proposed ordinance. Now, I think it's pretty much a non-starter for the 24-hour. I don't think anybody on the board is in favor of that, but that's O'Gall's ordinance, right? And that's what was provided as a sample. If, and I'm saying a big if, we were to agree to connect something with ATVs to the existing trails in the county, there would have to be a concrete ordinance put into place. And so, just kind of wanted to catch everybody up with we wouldn't vote on that issue tonight, for example. There is so many things that I'm sure, as I open it up to the board members for their discussion, that they're going to want to weigh in too, based on the comments. But it was important, I think, for us just to get the comments from the community, both for and against, so that we can have some information in which to make a better decision. So that's, from my perspective, that's the backstory. And I know it's clunky that we can't engage with everybody who speaks, but that kind of hopefully sums up everybody's, how we got here and the why. Because I think I heard a lot of whys. So with that, I would like to open up discussion to the board. Thank you for allowing me to catch everybody up on that, but I'd like to hear the board's discussion on this.
I would like to discuss. If there was such a proposal and it came up under ordinance, I have several questions. Who's going to pay for the signage? Who's also going to put up that signage? Because this is an added expense to our township. The hours of operation are definitely in consideration. Also the time of year. I am very opposed, I will say, to winter. Our roads are narrow, and I am concerned with the plows. I'm also concerned with our shoulders. I don't know if you all know me, but I love roads. I am a highway-heavy construction worker by trade. Yes, I drove the big trucks and all the big equipment. So I worry about wear and tear on our shoulders, our gravel shoulders. That again costs the whole township to have St. Croix County come in and re-gravel those areas. Also, like you mentioned, the hills, the washouts. Who's going to police these areas? So there's a lot of loops to figure out. So these are my questions that I would need a lot of answers to. These are my concerns.
Dan?
I think sound on here. I'm outright not opposed to the idea, but I am opposed to the idea of recreational four-wheeling in town. And so I don't know how you would limit that. You know, it just seems like you know, like somebody gave an example of you know, taking a four-wheeler to the neighbors, you know, to follow their driveway out, that sort of thing. And you know, that this makes sense to me. I know that there's a lot of that, you know, that goes on. But the route itself, I mean, it is discriminatory because, you know, it doesn't open it up for everybody. And we don't really want to increase a lot of four-wheel traffic. So I just see the way it's proposed at this point, to me, it's just kind of a non-starter at this point. I think there's just too much work to be done.
David?
As I thought about this route that's being proposed and some of the issues, all of which have been mentioned here by citizens and by Susan and Dan, I thought, well, maybe a shorter route on just McCutcheon would be a possible compromise to get started. The testimony that we received regarding the speed kind of turned me off to that also. And I went and I looked at county ordinances, 7904B, which states that the speed limit shall be 35 miles per hour unless the speed limit on the road is lower than it will be the speed limit of that road. So if you think about ATVs going on McCutcheon 35 miles an hour, with cars on a good day coming up on them at 45 miles an hour, on a bad day, or most days, 60 miles an hour, I see it as a real conflict. And the density, the conflict, the safety issues, to me, this is just not a, this is not a good plan. To speak a little bit more about past McCutcheon into the Sherman and down Norland and Crosby and everything else, those are residential neighborhoods, and I don't think that we should support this in a residential neighborhood at all. People like to walk, they like to bike, their kids play in the yard. The intentions of the club are honorable. They want access to the trail. They want a route to get to the other routes in Warren Township and beyond. I get that. But unfortunately, if you have a route set up, people that aren't part of the club may not have the same respect for the rules. They may not understand that they shouldn't be going around the circle over and over again. And yeah, they're going to go on shortcuts across yards. I live on a quarter lot. Snowmobiles always go across there. I've contemplated large boulders, but I've resisted. You're welcome, whoever drives them. Yeah, so that's it. I just, I couldn't support this almost in any way, shape, or form for town.
Well, I guess I'll close off and share my thoughts on my opinion of this rather than the setup. I think there's value in having outdoor recreation, especially in the age of cell phones. We want people to get out and do things that are enjoying nature, the outdoors, outdoor recreation. I understand the club's desire to connect to the route, but here's my problem with the way it's proposed now, which is a limited route. If we open it up that way, then it becomes a law that everybody can follow, right? So we'll have people trailering their ATVs that aren't connected to the road and leave their ATV trailer somewhere. And I have a problem with that because that is an eyesore on top of a safety issue, having trailers. Now, if it came to a lot and you had a club with a parking lot to do that and it was connecting to the trails, I think that's a different discussion. You know, because most of the clubs that I've seen will have like a meetup hall or building or something where that's the, you know, lack of a better word, clubhouse or place where you would drop your trailer off and then you can go and do. The other concern I have is, again, if we make a rule, there will be those who will break it, and then how do we enforce it? And a law without enforcement is not a law. And, you know, we have a limited amount of public safety resources from the sheriff's office. We do not have our own police department. I know that the county is not in favor of the ATV trails even where it is allowed. So there's, I think, some concerns. You know, my main thing is I wanted to hear what the club could come up with. I wanted to hear what the public had as its concerns. And by my count, I have 6 people who were speaking in favor of it, 4 that were neutral with some big changes, and the remaining opposed. And we have a full house here tonight of people that have expressed their opinion. So I also cannot support this. I would say to the club, and I think we will take a formal vote so that we can at least dispose of this issue tonight, but if you have a club house, a club area that would be somewhat connected that your club could use to go out and about on the trails, I think our town would probably reconsider it, because that's a different animal. But I think right now, with the other option would be to open it up to the entire town so we wouldn't have, and that's not what people want, I'm sure. So because every neighborhood then would get a letter, and they would probably be in the same proportion as here tonight. So if there's any further discussion, please go ahead, board. All right, then what I would ask to do is somebody make a motion, and we should take a roll call on it, if there's a motion.
I'll just make a motion that we not go forward with an ATV trail plan for the town of Hudson.
Motion's been made, is there a second? Second by Blank. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Clerk, could you do a roll call vote for us?
Supervisor Bossler?
Yay.
Supervisor Blank?
Yay.
Supervisor Barzal?
Yay.
Chairman Fowler?
Yay. All right. Let's move to, actually, let's do this. Let's take a 5-minute break. That way people who are not interested, I hope you all stay, but please. All right, we're going to reconvene the meeting at, looks like I might call 6:40 p.m. Mr. Clerk, I have a question before we go to the rest of the agenda. I know we have Tony on Zoom. Which items involve Tony?
He is for number 11.
Then I would like to take up item 11.
I'm sure he'd really appreciate that.
Yes, discussion and action on the report from the building inspector related to Subi Surgeon's property status. Now, Tony, you're on mute, but if you would unmute yourself, so we can, there you go. Let's see if we can hear you. Yes. All right, what report do you have, sir?
As far as...
Can you just give us a brief
the
summary?
report that I dropped off to the court.
Okay. So if you can, I don't know if Tony can hear me, but I can kind of preface it. So basically a while ago, there were some resident comments for Subi Surgeons and the upkeep and status of the property, as well as some things that are out there. The board had asked me to ask Tony to go out there and look and document. He put together a report and pictures that are in your binders for the state of the property and the things that Tony had taken pictures of. I've also drove by and saw there are multiple vehicles that are in different state of condition and they're parked kind of haphazardly all over the property, as well as probably 8 to 10 transmissions that are just laying on the ground in between the physical rehabilitation center and Subi Surgeons on their property, but it's kind of a visible eyesore, and that was what some of the concerns were. There's also outside storage of various mechanic, either parts that aren't being used or just outside storage. As well as there is no fencing for either their garbage cans, any of their cars, or a paved lot in that area to prevent any contamination from oil, transmission fluid, things like that. So at the last meeting, the board had asked to have Tony go out there and look. He did document that and put together a thorough report that has minutes and such from other meetings talking about Subi Surgeons and kind of what the status of that is. So if I can also just address Tony being on Zoom. He lives pretty far away. He was gracious enough to join us via Zoom. Understanding that his portion here is fairly short, I thought that was a good compromise, considering we rely on Tony for a lot, and we appreciate what he does for us. Just to maintain that relationship, he's agreed to be present this way and could do so in the future, but I didn't find it necessary to have Tony drive out here for a 10-minute stint and then drive back another 45 minutes to his house.
Is there a representative from Subi Surgeons here tonight? The record should reflect that there is not.
So I know in the past that, and this is probably been a year and a half, 2 years ago, and I know there's some board members left on the board, the current board, we left it, the board left it to the attorney to draw a letter that sent it to me surgeons to comply with their conditions. They thought, the board thought it would be better to use an attorney than
I think that the reference, Tony, what I think you're referencing there is in regard to the fire inspections.
Yes.
And so that's a little bit narrower scope than what we're talking about tonight.
That's been cleared up. Well, it's been cleared up, but only after about 5 different go-rounds.
I think that, when we go back and we look at the minutes and, this property owner has definitely not held up to what he has presented when we approved it. We approved it based upon certain criteria, including, the fencing, the paving, all of that stuff. And, that hasn't been done. I would just suggest before the board, there's 2 things that I think that we can do right now, and that is, one is that we can require them to pick up all the junk, that's out there. So any car that isn't, it's basically a junk automobile, transmission parts or whatever, that kind of stuff, that can be removed. And the other thing is I think that we should have a letter of credit as we required initially. I don't know if that letter of credit ever was provided, but we, as part of our normal standards, we would get a letter of credit for 10% of the market value of the property, and that would be held until all of the improvements had been done. And the way it looks to me, just kind of looking at the estimated market value of the county property site, that's about $660,000. So we should have a letter of credit by our next meeting, I would think, for $66,000. Because obviously he's not going to be able to pave and fence and do all of that, in this weather. So it's not going to happen. But if we at least get some sort of collateral.
I guess I have a question for Tony, if you want to unmute yourself again. Tony, your report here indicates, by my reading, 4, if not 5 violations, because you have 4 in bold and then 1 further notation that the junk vehicles would fall under the town's nuisance ordinance, chapter 65. So by my count, that's 5 potential violations of our town code. Do you agree with that statement?
I do agree with that, but there's more than just that issue there.
Well, I recognize that.
I mean, he's not in compliance with any of the conditions he had on the original conditional use permit.
Right, which that would actually be if you lump all those together, that would be a 6th violation of our ordinances, then, right? Well, it would be for the conditional use permit, but that would be in violation of an agreement with the town for that conditional use permit, correct?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So help me understand. So you see violations on our town code that we've requested you to look at. Have you considered writing a citation to the owner for the 5 violations?
Well, again, I'm not positive that what's junk and what's not licensed and stuff like that, because I can't just walk on somebody's property.
No, but I mean, fence as described. You noted that there were transmissions outside. I don't know if I see those in the photographs, but that's from your report. I mean,
Yep.
Yeah, that one's in there. That, it's hard to kind of tell what they are, but there's,
oh, I see them now.
yeah.
I mean, I think you have enough to issue the city surgeon's citations for five violations, the 4 in bold plus chapter 65. Do you disagree with that?
Do I disagree with that?
Right, do you have enough?
I don't disagree with that, so how long do we want to go back? Right? Do we go back on the citations from the day we gave them occupancy then?
Well, I think if you were to issue citations, it would be what you observe on a particular date. That's how I would do it if I were prosecuting the case, for example. I won't be, obviously. But, you know, you have to have you have to be able to testify as to the facts that you observe on a particular date, and that's the date I think you should put in the citation. But if you have enough to issue a citation based on what the evidence you provided to us, I'm sure the board will make a motion here, but I think that a citation is appropriate. I just wanted to make sure that you were in agreement that you have seen enough evidence of a violation of those 5 ordinances.
So again, and I agree with the citations, but how do I know for sure that there's only 5 on there and not more than 5?
Well, we start with what we can prove, and what you provided here seems to be able to be provable by your report alone. And you can testify to all that in court, correct?
Yeah, from what I've seen from outside the property.
Right. Okay. You can put yourself back on mute unless anybody else has any question for Tony.
Would it be helpful to have Paul involved?
I mean, it would be, but I know from past practice that the town has directed its building inspector to issue citations, so I don't think it's necessary. But I'd like to hear.
Well, and I know in the past, we have talked to the board before we do issue citations, and they usually discuss it with the attorney to make sure we're doing everything right, so we don't end up in court.
Well, if you issue a citation, technically, we are in court, okay? So, board members, do you have any further discussion?
I'd like to propose that as well as Tony writing the citations, that we follow up with a letter from the attorney, giving the business a time frame, whereas they're going to be inspected again, and also asking for that letter of credit.
Well, I think what makes sense to me, Susan, is that we craft 3 different motions addressing those, because I think they're each different, unique steps. So, to speed this along a little bit, I would make a motion that we direct Tony and his firm to issue the citation on behalf of the township for the 4 violations in bold in his report, plus a violation of Chapter 65 for the junk vehicles under the nuisance ordinance. That's my motion. Second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I think, one of the things that has happened though is we have gone along and, this situation has existed now for at least a couple of years. And my recommendation would be is that we give them essentially a week, or something like that, sometime to do what they need to do. So I think, in terms of the fencing, there's a problem there, because, if we've got more cars than they inside. But theoretically, they can move all those cars someplace. And then, you know, events, you know, would be maybe not as important an issue. Then there's the outside junk, which is another issue. But I guess my thought is that, you know, if we give them a little bit of time, and it can be a short time, I don't think we want to give them very much time, but I think that we say, you know, look, you know, you got to get this cleaned up, and I do think that as far as like the ALC, I think we give them some time too to get that all put together. So just a reasonable amount of time. I don't think that they're going to do it. You know, so, but I do think that, you know, if we cite them, I think that essentially they'll just run up a bill and we won't get our money. And so I do think that, you know, we've got to figure out, you know, I think that, you know, we want to be as reasonable as possible, but we have to basically put some, you know, a combination of reasonableness and teeth, you know, in the thing, so.
Well, and realistically, we as a board won't be able to meet to review their compliance without calling a special meeting until the March meeting.
Yes.
So I would be open to amending my motion to say if compliance is not done by within 30 days of the next board meeting, then we issue the citations forthwith.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's good. That's reasonable, but I think that, you know, if you can test it, then, you know, we can say we haven't done something that's unreasonable.
Dave, you seconded my motion. Are you okay with my amendment?
Yes.
Okay. So procedurally, we're on track. Any further discussion on the motion? Going once. All right. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4 with no opposed.
Would you just kind of repeat the
Yeah,
motion of that?
if he doesn't comply within 30 days, and this meeting is public, so he's got his notice, and we certainly can talk about the attorney stuff later, but the motion is, if he doesn't comply within 30 days, or the next board meeting, then we will issue 4 citations as listed in bold in the report, plus the additional citation for Chapter 65, the nuisance vehicles.
And these citations apply each day of non-compliance.
I think for now, you shoot for 1 day, because that was observed on a particular date. That way we don't get any legal questions as to before or after. We just focus on 1 day. If there's non-compliance after that, then we have that option. So, now, I think I heard some other ideas, so I don't want to put words in your mouth. What's your motions?
I think that's one motion by itself, so I think let's let that stand and keep it kind of clean.
Okay. Did you want to require any sort of bond, or should we authorize some attorneys?
Yes.
Okay, so our motion is done. We voted, it's been passed. So that first motion is done. So is there a second motion you'd like to make?
Yeah, and the second motion is that within 30 days that we have a letter of credit for 10% of the value of the entire property, which is what is required in our ordinance, which is estimated at this point at $66,000.
So the amount of the bond would be $66,000.
The letter of credit, yes.
Sorry, the letter of credit is $66,000.
And that would, and then what would happen is if we would hold that until the parking lot's been paved, the fence is up, you know, all that stuff. And I suppose we could potentially use it for non-payment of, we'd have to check up with our attorney on that. Non-payment of citations.
Okay, and is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Discussion. Here's my question. So a letter of credit says you have X amount of money.
Yeah.
A bond says you're going to put put up X amount. Which are you intending here? Because a bond,
I would rather have cash.
me
I
too.
can say, but I think the ordinance says letter of credit, and so I think we should stick with the ordinance.
Okay. Because that will not result in a deposit of any sort for us to.
No, and I think that we could say that we would accept a bond, a deposit, in lieu of a letter of credit. So if they have difficulty getting a credit line, we'll take the cash.
Okay, so I understand that the motion is being amended slightly to say letter of credit or bond.
Yes.
Are you okay with that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so procedurally we're on the same motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Other motions?
I think just we need to put it on the agenda for next month, and revisit it, just to see where we're at, and that's.
I would like to ask Tony for a specific day to go out and inspect, to see what is, so he could say whether this was done or not, what was done or not. Because he was the original visual. So when the 30 days is up, we would have.
Right. I would say that we could authorize him to do an inspection, but I don't want to marry that to a date because if you tell somebody when they're coming, things might be. So I would just authorize a inspection.
I would like to make a motion to authorize Tony to do a follow-up inspection on this property.
I will second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Anything else on Subi Surgeons? Hearing none, we will go back up to.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tony. You can disconnect if you'd like.
Thank you.
Go to item number 7, discussion action on proposed changes to ordinance 105-14.2F for prohibited uses. And this is our opportunity to discuss, not only the public hearing, but I think we have at least 2 of the landowners here that would be affected. And the question was asked of us as a board, would any liquor use be prohibited? And I think we had a discussion, I think last meeting, where we made a kind of change to be off-sale liquor, so that a liquor store would be prohibited with this change. I don't think the intent was to create a bar on restaurants that serve alcohol, or if, for example, a Topgolf type scenario that served alcohol and food, I think that would fall in that same exception. So, sir, I wanted to be able to tell you that, but I couldn't do it at the public hearing portion. At least the way I understand the proposal, it does not bar you from having a restaurant, so long as you serve food so that you're not in strictly off-sale liquor, that would be allowed. Now, at the ballpark itself, I think the conditional use said there would be no alcohol sales, so that also may be a source of the confusion, but you are not on that property, so.
And just to be clear, so I think what we're saying is that if there was a gas station there and they had a liquor license, that would not be a problem.
I think Off-sale liquor means that your primary business purpose is the sale of alcohol. So that's what we're trying to prohibit. So we don't want, say, nothing wrong with, these businesses, but we don't want a strictly alcohol business right next to the ball field. So that's the intent anyway. And I think if we limit it to off-sale liquor, that takes care of defining that. Does that answer your questions, or do you have any further questions?
That answers that, yes, but should we come up there?
Yeah, please come.
One more concern, I guess, was the mini storage and storage rental businesses. Mini storage,
We already have a moratorium on any more mini storage, so that's already a no-go.
fine.
Right.
But what I would like to do is put up a larger building, or a few of them. And I'm not going to occupy all of them with my cabinet business. And some of them will be rented out. And so renting out to a landscape business, any other businesses like that, is that permissible? With this, is it just not storage rental? So it's not storing, but another business can be run off that property, correct?
Yeah, we're not saying that, and again, you're unique because I think your property is zoned commercial, correct?
Commercial and industrial, yes.
Right. So any use in that area that would not run afoul of the new restrictions would come out. But if you're doing mini storage, which is, I'm going to have 7 units in a row and businesses can store in them, that would fall under that. You see what I'm saying? But if you have a building that has a garage stall for the tenant to then rent out,
Yep.
that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the 7 or 8 mini storage units we have in the town.
Got it.
So we have plenty.
Okay. I think a clear way of addressing it would be basically to say, as we've said, if you look at, like commercial, industrial, that's where you're zoned at this point. So if it's a allowed type of activity, usage, then, you can rent it to somebody who's doing those kinds of activities. But if they're doing something that's different than that, then that would be prohibited.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I'm not here to rush it, so if you have any other questions.
No, that was it. Yeah. Thank you.
You bet. We also have, is it Ms. Brennan? And your current property is owned ag res.
I believe so, yes.
Okay. So to answer a question that I think from your comments.
Well, I have a million of them now.
Okay. Come on up.
Is the ball field approved?
They have been granted a conditional, obviously a special exception permit with conditions. And there's a lot of them. They need to fundraise and do the things necessary for that. So it's not going to be tomorrow, not going to be next year.
So all of these amendments are because of youth, children being on the ball field?
Right. The intent of this ordinance, and I have to admit this was my idea, so is that we want to make sure that certain uses that are incompatible with kids playing baseball are not allowed.
So why is electrical substation, power generation facilities, and any other electrical utility operations, including solar farms or generation, why would that hurt a child?
Well, I think from my point of view, it's the boosters have gone to a great deal of effort in creating what I would say kind of a crown jewel type, nice sports stadium that does not pollute the neighbors with lights. They've put a lot of effort into having a beautiful plan. And I think that if you had solar farm right next door, for example, that would not be compatible with the landscape, with the can't do any of these anyway, because they're not allowed uses in the ag use district.
Now, that isn't what I was told.
Well, it's right in the code.
Okay.
The ag res lists specific things that you can do. For example, an adult bookstore is not allowed.
I understand though, I'm not going to plumb an adult bookstore
Right.
in the middle of the property.
But massage parlors, these retail businesses are not allowed in an ag res zone area anyway. So my intent in doing this was, at least for those that are zoned ag res, that you would be losing nothing because it is not restricting you from doing anything that's already not prohibited. Follow what I'm saying?
I follow what you're saying, but I feel you're just restricting me all the way around. The other thing my understanding is St. Croix County will not allow another access. So that means they have to access where my property is, right?
So there's I don't think that's exactly correct. There's already a turn lane that they built in there.
On part of my property.
Right. And so that's the access point. So do you control that access point?
Yep. 2/3 of it I control.
With no easements?
With no easements. We started an easement with, I believe, the gentleman that was up here before. And he never signed the papers.
Well, one of the conditions for the ballpark is that they have the access figured out. So it's not, we don't have control over putting in the access. It's not something we are undertaking. It has to be worked out. If the ball field wants to get their ball field, they need to make sure that they have access, easement, and roads worked out on their end.
Okay.
So that's not something we decide.
Okay, I just feel like it needs done now, okay? And I'm sorry. but
No,
That's the way I feel in this, so. But that's all I got.
Thank you. So, to the board, we have in our packet what has now been codified into more, zoning ordinance type language and format. It's on your tab here. And we discussed with legal counsel this issue, so I don't want to put that in a public forum, just to remind everybody of that, okay? So, do we have a motion to adopt this ordinance?
I'll make the motion to adopt the proposed changes for ordinance 105-14.2.
Is there a second? I will second it. Discussion.
I would like to, I'd like to kind of readdress, the issue that I brought up before of uses being prohibited unless they're specifically named. And I still think that's a very important way of going about it, but I understand that, I was in the minority, on that issue in terms of addressing it. But I would appeal to the board to amend this by adding just one more phrase. That would be number 13. And it would read, and allowing for any special exceptions, sports activities specifically approved by the town board, prohibited uses shall also include any other activity not specifically identified as permitted use in any other zoning ordinances applicable within this district. And so what it really is saying is that, if we're saying that it's, industrial or commercial or whatever, it's rezoned to commercial or whatever, if it's not identified as a permitted use within commercial, then it would not be allowed. Just like we normally do, just so that, it's clear that we're kind of tying it back into our normal method of ordinance.
So, your motion, I seconded, I'm not going to accept the amendment. So, you will have to vote on the motion as presented. Further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, is Dan making a motion to amend that we would have to second and vote on?
So he did, but as the seconder of the motion, I don't accept it.
You're the seconder of the original motion.
Correct. So if Dan wants to amend.
Because he made the original motion.
Right.
Okay.
Or Susan did, but.
Oh, Susan did. So Dan's offering an amendment to the motion, which I think we procedurally, if there is a second, we'll have to vote.
Well, so there's the motion that's originally pending. And so, as I understand Robert's rules, I'm no expert by any means. You can amend a motion by having the original motion maker and the seconder agree to the amendment, which I do not agree in this case.
Right.
So therefore, his motion then would be out of order until the motion is defeated or adopted. That's my understanding of Robert's rules of order. I can be wrong. But I've got a little book here somewhere.
I have the same understanding, and I also could be wrong.
He amended the original motion. If he gets a second, they vote on that.
And it did. So the first motion that Susan made.
No, on the amendment.
Okay, is there a second on the amendment? We'll just take it the simplest route we can here, guys. Hearing none, amendment fails. So we're back to the original motion. Any further discussion on the original motion?
Can I add one thing? So technically, the way it's written is 105-14.2 subsection F. F wasn't identified, but being a stickler, sorry.
Yeah, well, when new language is codified, it has to get numbered in our system anyway, and I think there's a provision in the code that allows that anyway. So,
Just being thorough.
yeah, as long as you've identified it, that's great. All right, hearing no further discussion on Susan's motion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. By my count, that is, passes 3-1. All right, that takes care of number 7 on our agenda. Number 10, discussion action on the BFG 1 746 Stern Bends commercial development application. And I assume that's this big packet right here?
Yep. You? Come on. Sorry, I forgot your name. I don't want to be, is that you? But it's you.
Why don't you state your name for the record?
Dan. Yeah, exactly.
All right.
I think we got you on, so not on your list. Yeah.
So I guess I'll open it up for the board members to ask you any questions.
I can speak a little bit to this, and you can fill in as well. This one's a little bit unique. So it did go through Planning Commission, and there was a contingency to reapproach after tenants are secured. Am I correct so far?
Right now, there's no tenants. It's, if you build it, they will come situation. And as tenants come to rent, we would have to bring the tenant in front of the board to get approval that it's an approved use for the.
Want to hit the mic, please? No, it's on.
It's on.
Yeah, so you're saying that your tenants will be screened to see if they meet the approved uses according to the code. Correct.
And do we get anything from our engineers on this?
But it's just the question of what the tenants were going to be.
Correct. So they're conditionally approved with the exception of the tenants, and we'll reapproach. I guess we might have neglected to put the PC minutes in there, but thankfully we have one member present, you can maybe correct me if I'm wrong. It was conditionally approved, right? Everything I've said so far is
Yes.
on the up. Okay. I said it right here.
Well, again, any questions by the board? Greg, how did you word it? It was conditionally approved, having tenant screening?
Yeah, each time a tenant would sign up or come forth to rent, then they would have to be approved for the conditional use, whatever that tenant's business was.
Consistent with the code of the area that he's on.
Right.
Make a motion to approve the site plan for 746 Sturgis Drive as presented with the contingency that once they have tenants to come back to site plan approval.
I'll second.
Motion's been seconded. Any further discussion?
Well, so where are we at this point? Are we getting like our letter of credit and all that kind of stuff? I mean, that's okay. All that's taken care of. That's okay. It's all that's been addressed. Okay. Yes. Perfect. Okay.
All right, any further discussion of the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you.
Number 12, Mr. Clerk, please enlighten the board on this one.
Yeah, so our IT services, SunnyLink, suggested updating our cybersecurity for software called Huntress. It's something that they highly recommended to prevent cybersecurity attacks or invasion of any town hall document privacy, things like that. Basically, it's something that they ran on their own IT system for their business, and they found, I think it was 3 threats. They identified that their current systems weren't picking up. Me personally, I'm not super into tech, but I've read enough horror stories of companies getting infiltrated with ransomware or viruses and getting locked out, having to restructure all of their information, pay ransoms. I think it's under $80 a month for this software, less than $1,000 a year. But I think this is something that I would personally opt for. I think it was under the budget of something that John and I could approve, but still wanted to bring it forward and pass it along. If Tim Whiteside is highly recommending it, I think it makes sense. He seems pretty financially smart and competent for us. I think it's a good idea, and it's something that runs in the background and helps keep the town cyber safe. So,
And I also would say, I asked, Nick brought this to my attention right away, and I said, please put it on the agenda just so we can tell the public that we're taking actions to secure our data. And I think from a liability point of view too, the more we do, the less liable we become. So I personally am in favor of this, so if there's a motion to approve the expenditure, I'd love to hear it.
Could we, I'd like some clarity just on the cost. So it looks like there's an estimate of $2.80 and $2 per user per month or whatever. So I'm not sure if that's what we're talking about or what is the actual cost.
do you remember the number of assets that we have? I think it's like
There's seven assets that need to be installed with this particular software, and it came out to, I want to say the bills are, so I think it's going to end up being around $80 to $90 a month for everything included. So it was $10 to $15 per unit. Just to clarify Nick's comment, Sunnyside does use Huntress software. They have been approaching different municipalities with it, and the three different weaknesses, not weakness, but attacks they had discovered were at some of these new municipalities that they've run, that they found some threats. So, yes, I also would endorse it.
This would replace anything else that we have right now, or do we
It
have?
would be over and above our existing. So,
Okay. Is there anything that we can eliminate when we have it, or is it?
not necessarily. I think, we got a lot of boilerplate stuff that's out there, and I'm not speaking for Tim, he probably knows there's some other software out there that, we're not paying for any other security software that I know of.
Okay.
So do we have a motion to approve the expenditure?
So moved.
Second. Motion by Dan, tie call, Susan.
Susan can have one.
Susan seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Takes care of number 12. Number 13, discussion action to eliminate pest control services from the town hall. So this was an item that our worthy treasurer has brought to my attention, that we apparently have been paying for mouse traps and sticky stuff, and they've never caught a mouse. So why are we paying for pest control services inside the building? And then I heard we were also paying for them outside the building. And mice live outside. What are we doing? So I thought to myself, can we just make a motion to eliminate all the pest services and see what the board thinks? Because that is, how much money a month are we paying for that?
Well, it was, there's two parts to the bill, obviously. The internal portion is $43 a month. And actually, in speaking with Mr. Blank, we have a couple of them set up outside for the air conditioning units that are out there. And they have, obviously, because they're outdoors, they've caught pests out there. But, so I was going to just leave the outside, which is an annual thing. It's not something they come to do monthly.
Well, here's my thought on this is, we have Scott, and you can buy 20 mouse traps for $20 on Amazon. And put a little peanut butter in there, and we're not, there's no reason to be spending more than $20 on outdoor mouse control.
Right.
So that's why I asked if you have it put on so that we can eliminate it altogether.
That's fine.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion to eliminate pest control services from the town hall. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Susan seconds. Any further discussion?
I would like to make sure that we authorize Scott to be able to buy a jar of peanut butter and the sticky traps, but Mr. Blank has captured 40 some mice this winter by using peanut butter and a special little clippy trap. So they're very inexpensive, so he does have experience with catching mice.
All right, so motion to eliminate pest control, we have Scott Blank take care of that for us at whatever it costs, because we know they're cheap, so.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just one question or concern. You mentioned the outside traps around the air conditioning. I would hate to pull those out if they are in fact somehow protecting our air conditioning, electrical wires and so forth that are getting chewed up. A problem that I have had. I'm not suggesting that we continue the pest control out there, but there may be a necessity to do something to protect that equipment better. So for future generation.
Sure. And I think if we got a case of 20 of those mouse traps, we could surround that thing. But anyways, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion is stated by Susan, signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Discussion action to authorize a letter to be provided to residents of the nearby school district property on Mr. Bartzel has taken the initiative to draft an informational letter to the property owners near what I'll call the school district property on UU. I took a look at it and had some recommended changes. I think we have a final version. Nick, did you end up sending that out to the board?
It's in your packets.
Okay, great. And let's see here. 14. Thank you.
Probably the very last thing on yours.
Yes. I think this is an important thing to do, because just like we got with, the outpouring of people when we sent a letter regarding the ATV, I would like to get the community involved in this issue. I think there's pretty strong opposition to annexation by the residents of the town, especially those nearby. And so what I'm asking for here is, an expenditure of physical paper, envelopes, and stamps to be sent out to basically anybody in the quadrant from County Road A, 94 to Badlands, and then one property row inward, okay? So across the street on UU. And then bounded by, obviously, Carmichael, because we're not send letters into the city of Hudson, and then bounded by County Road A. So that rectangular box is who I think we should send the letters to, and across the street on UU to the north. So, unless you have changes with the letter, I mean, it's basically informing them of what we're doing and what steps they can take and how they can get involved.
So this letter would also go out to just property owners, not people that are currently residents here.
Well, it would go out to the address of everybody in that area. We could write owner/resident.
The reason I'm bringing that up is because we all know that they're trying to go under the 94.
We do know that.
And a lot of those properties are not citizens that are actually living.
Well, I think we could direct our clerk to find the fee owners of that property based on the records to make sure that they go out so that they would be received.
It would be very similar to the ATV route. I mean, it's a lot of that Crosby neighborhood. We nailed down what you're looking at, because I think the way you said it sounds like you're going north of UU, which is, it's not where they're going, right?
No, but they would have joined the property. So the first row of property,
Okay.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would just say what you can do. I would like to amend that to say that you may wish to do the following. And in other words, we're not necessarily I think it's better for us to be in a situation where we're not necessarily we want to take the position that you outlined here, which I think is really good. Any annexation that is ruled against the public interest or non-unanimous among all affected property owners, and what you can do, and then you may wish to do the following. And rather than say we encourage, because I think that might be, if we're getting into a legal fight on the thing, I think that we are just basically informing rather than advocating.
Dan, you're saying, so the sentence under what you can do would be replaced completely with you may wish to.
Yeah.
And then the bullet points are fine.
Yes.
I think that's good.
So you may wish to. Can we change that to, I get the sentiment.
Yeah.
Okay, I get the sentiment. Give me a second. How about you say you have the right to inject any county officer, stay informed, and contact the town. Or you have the option to.
Yeah, you have the option to do the following if you wish, or whatever, something like that.
You have the option to. I think that's probably the best way. Okay. So Dan, are you making a motion to approve sending this letter to the residents as described in the bounded area?
As amended, yes.
As amended to say you have the option to, and then the 5 bullet points on the last page.
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Susan seconds. Any further discussion? The only thing I want to say on this is keeping our rural community, even though we're not as rural as, some of the more rurals, the city of Hudson definitely is not. And if we have annexation plop in the middle of the neighborhood that's not contiguous, then that opens up the township to be taken over. And that's really my overreaching concern. My biggest principle is we got to keep this place the character that it is. And so I'm just trying to encourage our residents to be involved if this affects you.
And I would add that we wouldn't really even need to do this except for the fact that we are now aware that there's been a discussion about pursuing non-unanimous annexation, which in the past has always been a position that the city was against. And it seems that they are opening the door to reconsider that position. And that's the kind of annexation that can then lead to the, let's say, typical land trade, right in the middle of the township, and then they just start spreading out from there with more and more non-unanimous annexations.
And non-unanimous annexation can potentially lead to some challenges as well legally. So I'm trying to keep us in a, and I think you are too, by putting this, recognizing this issue and putting it forward with this letter, to make sure that our residents are informed, that they take action that they feel is appropriate, protect their interests, and get involved. Right. And that really is what, Mr. Herbson, you've got your hand up.
Just a quick question. Could you also, in addition to those that you're mailing this to, could you put that letter on the website so those of us that are just outside that boundary could see it?
Yes, we can even do a town alert for anybody who's signed up for alerts. We can do that, so.
Thank you.
Dan, do you have a problem with that amendment to include posting on the website and in one? Susan, you're okay with that? So friendly amendment? All right. Yeah, just the last comment on this, we saw an interview that caused us some concern with the neighboring jurisdiction. That's why we're reacting to that. So we're just trying to, trust me, the school district property is one thing that I monitor every week to see where it's at, so that we don't lose an opportunity here to keep our town the way it is. All right, enough of that. All those in favor of the motion as amended, signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Very good. Mr. Clerk, just since you got that letter, just make that change and know you have an election coming up, so we'll work on it. All right. Item 15, discussion action to appoint additional election workers for the 2026 election year.
All right, so this is me again. I am adding 3 more people to my list. If you want to see my list, I can show you. Basically, it doesn't hurt to have more. There were 2 people that were on one of the nominated lists from the Republican Party that at the time didn't answer. Learned through the process that it's better just to have the board approve everyone, whether they answer my phone call or not, and then decide who's actually interested. So this will just be adding 3 more, just to have, again, more personnel available for the upcoming elections. There are Vicki Heath, Bob Milan, and Kristen Hughes. So I can show you the list if you want. You can take me at the word. But I can add people with town board approval. So I'm trying to sneak this in before the primary. Don't know if I'll use any of them necessarily, but it puts us, I think, over 16 or 17 people who have volunteered. I would say about 60% have been responsive, and we'll see what happens tomorrow and Friday as far as training, because they have to train to be able to work. So trying to keep within the statutes of how many people from each party can be there, but they cannot work unless they've trained. So.
All right, to speed things up, I'm going to make a motion to appoint the additional election workers as indicated by Clerk Handles. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Good job, Nick. Discussion action to fill a position on the Planning Commission board. I received a letter of resignation from Mr. Dave Meyer. He had indicated that his time commitment, especially on Mondays, became problematic. And so, as it's listed here, discussion action to fill a position on the Planning Commission board. Rather than have a lengthy process to fill this commission member, I would note for everybody that we had a large amount of applicants for an actual board member position, and the top vote getters were Dave Bardazol and Chris Jordan. And Chris Jordan, in withdrawing, had said, I would rather be on the Planning Commission. So I would nominate Chris Jordan to fill the vacancy of David Meyer.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Now the saddest part of the agenda. Discussion action to post a job listing for a new town clerk. Mr. Handlos informed me that as happens to people, their life circumstances change, and he has indicated that he will be leaving his post as town clerk effective when?
I put April 30th, change it from when we talked. Just looking ahead to the schedule with the elections in April and a bunch of other mandatory town meetings. This thing is dead, so I'll just talk louder. Basically had a family change to support my wife and family, being home to take care of the house and kids so she can focus on this new opportunity. Didn't plan for it, but it's a great chance to be with my young kids, which are under 5. And possibly look at supporting the town if needed, but also giving 3 months of notice to help go through the selection process of a new clerk, transition them in an ideal situation, have them side by side with me for the spring election, and make sure it's a smooth transition. That way it's not, putting in 2 weeks in the town is kind of upended without having a clerk. But I appreciate all of your trust in me, and specifically calling out Scott Blank and John for what you guys do in the office. John worked here, so you have to be here, but, Scott's come in to assist, and he's been incredible, so that's been amazing. A huge help to have someone filling that deputy adjacent role for both John and I.
And I just want to say, Mr. Hanlos, that the public's reaction to your job as clerk has been overwhelmingly positive. And I thought that you were learning faster than expected, and we're doing a great job. So we are going to be really sad to see you go, but I understand how life can change. And so, so one thing that you do have the ability to do, since your resignation won't be effective until later, is I think what's going to need to happen is we're going to need to reconvene as a board. We can do that in closed session. I don't think we should do it until after the primary, because this room is going to be filled with election stuff. But I'm thinking maybe the last, anytime after the primary election, we'll have to have a special meeting again. We can pull up our notes from our prior applicants. We can post anew again in the paper and online for more applicants. But one thing I was thinking of is we technically have not had the clerk assign a deputy clerk. So he has that right. And if we find somebody that might work, we could maybe have them assist as the deputy clerk until we go. So that's an option too. Because I like what you said. And I just want the public to compare and contrast how this clerk is leaving versus the prior clerk. With notice, with consideration, and planning. I appreciate that so much, Nick. That's just an option. If I can identify somebody, maybe we can have them appointed as a deputy clerk and see the process of the election firsthand.
That would be huge, because I'm going into this one completely blind. And it's a lot of relying on the county clerk, which has also been a huge resource, as well as North Hudson, and just taking a minute to thank River Falls. They're coming in tomorrow to train our poll workers. They've provided PowerPoints, and we'll be here hands-on with material. It's just been other clerks out there support other clerks, so that's been great.
Well, if we wouldn't mind, maybe let's pull out our calendars here. The primary spring election is February 17th. So we would have, the 18th is Ash Wednesday, so that's out. I don't want to conflict with everybody's beliefs. You do Thursday the 19th or February 24th, 25th, or 26th. Any preferences?
Let's get going as soon as we can, because our March meeting will be right around the corner, so I'm suggesting either the 19th or the 24th.
19th works for me, so is the 24th.
Yeah, what time are we thinking?
Probably what works.
I can't do before 5.
Right.
Okay. We could do 5.
I'm kind of tied up until about 5:30 on the 19th.
You could do 6.
Let's do 6.
Okay. Hang on one second here. Got it on trial today. I have to think about that. So the 19th special board meeting, or closed session, let me call it correct, closed session time. Now, that early, we'll need to get that posted on the web and the board by tomorrow, if that's possible. And we'll just call it a workshop, closed session workshop to discuss hiring of a new clerk.
What's your concern?
Noticing?
Yeah. So for a workshop, it would be, there's no additional special notice.
Okay. Then,
if it was a special meeting of the town, then you need a 2-week notice, but if it's a workshop in closed session, it would be no different than a long meeting.
Mr. Chairman, in that working session,
yes.
I would also like to speak about get nominations for the open seat, so that we would have something ready to vote meeting.
Yes.
Sorry, guys.
No problem. So we'll have that.
It'll be outside of the closed session, but it can't be acted on. We can discuss, but. Because that's not.
We just want to bring forth nominations for the office.
To discuss it amongst the board, but you can't.
Yes, but we're not going to vote, there would be no voting until the March meeting.
Correct.
So I would like that to be put on our March agenda to vote on that open seat. Please.
For the video and for the record, I think we might need to explain what we're talking about with the open seat.
Mr. Chairman, would you like to take that over?
What's that?
Discuss what we're talking about on the open seat
Just for the record.
for the record?
So just as you may have noticed, we have 4 board members here tonight. Again, life circumstances change, and Ms. Lang has indicated that she is going to be resigning from the board. I believe it was effective tonight. So we currently have a vacancy for the board, so if anybody's interested, talk to your friends and family, and we will have an open seat on the board. So, and I expressed to Rachel how, like Mr. Handlos, how sad I am to see her go, but you gotta take care of yourself. So, with that, anything else then on communication items for future agendas?
There was quite a bit of comments tonight with the ATV proposal about speed issues with vehicles in various roads around town. And I have myself noticed that people tend to be driving a lot faster than they used to. So for a future agenda item, maybe we should discuss some options for possibly getting some signs or things like that to the blinking signs that tell people how fast they're going for certain areas, and/or enhanced enforcement with the sheriff's department. I just think we should discuss it because I see it as becoming a public safety issue.
All right, I can note that, Mr. Clerk, for the next agenda.
I would also ask that our clerk be working on that RFP for the removal and maintenance possible for our tree and maintenance. We need to get on that so that we can be taking open bids. Thank you.
And if we could have a report from the attorney on the road maintenance agreement issue, stage one.
Last one I have, if the attorney is done with reviewing the fire code ordinance changes that were proposed, that could go on next month's agenda also.
Very good. I don't have anything to add.
I have one thing to circle back to. I missed it because we went quick in the consent agenda. It was a unique situation with the operator's licenses, so I have an application for a change of agent for Lucky's Liquor Store. Basically, there's restructuring and appointing a new agent. It just needs town board approval. I put that with the operator's license. It's a relatively small thing, but they've completed all their paperwork, they've paid. Just need to have board approval that they are changing. They passed their background checks. So if you are okay with approving their operator's license, it's the same check for the agent. Their liquor license will be issued the same exact date, same class, everything. Liquor license window of authority is the same. The date of change will reflect the change of the agent, but nothing else otherwise changes. So.
And that was in the consent agenda packet?
It was under operator's license. I just wanted to specifically call it because it is a change of agent, not just a license.
Or it's fine, we proved it, so it's done. Do we have that motion to adjourn? So moved. All right. Second. Yeah.
Oh, I've been waiting for 3 hours. I want to get my 2 cents worth.
Thank you, sir. Public comment. Yeah, this time.
Thank you. Hey,
Good call.
I'm not shy. Dale Windorf, 518 County Road A, 18-year resident of the township. I got a checking question. I know you don't answer questions, but I got a checking question. Are you familiar with the proposed connection between River Falls and Hudson substations by Cell Energy?
Yes.
Okay. Well, if you look at one of the proposed routings, it comes up turns at the railroad track, heads west, and then heads north through private property on a tree line. I'm the tree line. The tree line happens to be less than 200 feet from my backyard, which is our happy place. We've got 3 patios, we've got a fire pit, and all kinds of stuff. That's where we hang out when it's nice. Same concern about aesthetics as well as property value. It also goes for the Gables who live to the south of us, and also to Ray Jacobs' family. You probably all know Ray. And Lanny, who was here earlier, her and I have had some discussions about it because it's going to impact their property as well if that is the final routing. I know that property is kind of slated for future residential, and that would adversely impact that future property for residential. So I guess Lanny did an update and sent some notes to Excel regarding alternate routings that follow public access roads, following the railroad track. And I'd like to encourage the board to encourage Excel to stick to public right-of-way type access rather than impacting private property. My property already has a large power line out back with the 80 to 100-foot poles. On the backside, fortunately, it's far away from my house and not real obvious. This proposed route would be a very disadvantage for us from aesthetics and property value perspective.
What was your address again?
I'm sorry?
Your address again was what?
518 County Road A. If you want some information, I do have copies of the letter that Lanny sent to Excel, and it shows the routing map.
If you want to give it to the clerk, we'll receive it.
So give that to the clerk. I don't know if you want more than one copy. I have 3. One's good.
That's great.
And proposed routing, that's me. So you can show Dan where I'm at.
Well, thank you for sticking it out for us. Thank you for reminding me that we skip public comment. But thank you for staying and thank you for sharing. I appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman.
Well, the last is always the best. Thanks a lot for listening.
For a future agenda item, we should think about revisit the conversation on the Excel connection.
Okay.
They have not yet filed at the PSC. I checked just this week. So I'm watching that while you're watching the annexation.
Yep, exactly. We're on the ball, let's just say that.
What was your ad?
So at some point in the future, to revisit the position that we're going to take with the annexation, with the Excel connection.
We're going to add this gentleman back on the agenda if he missed, because next meeting. Yeah, next meeting. We can only do things that are on the agenda, and you were not on this meeting's agenda. So we're going to put you on the agenda for the next meeting, and I'm making sure that that gets in. So come next time.
If you would have told me that before when I was here, when the state was signed.
Well, we can only do things that are on the agenda, so that's just a state law rule. So we'll see you next month, okay?
ER.
Let us know if you can't make it, we'll make accommodations.
Sort of hard.
I
I
got you.
can't breathe, I'm in the ER.
Understood. All right. So, do we
We adjourned.
We adjourned, okay. I'm gonna shut this off.